Hi everyone, this is OCD Live. I'm Ali Grayman, and let's get to some questions. So the first question I have was about the evolution of pure OCD thoughts. And I would talk about evolution of OCD thoughts in general for the person, because it is an important topic, because you need to understand exactly how OCD operates in order to overcome OCD. So if you know why the thoughts are there, why these specific thoughts are there, it makes it a lot better to disregard them, a lot easier. So there's two types of processes when it comes to evolution of the OCD thoughts. There is the general and the specific. The general meaning that a person who is, say, 18, 19 years old has a value system that's drastically different from a person who is 30 years old, and the person who is 30 has a drastically different value system from a person who's 50 or 60 years old, or at least somewhat different. What matters to them, what's most important to them, what they're most afraid to lose is different. So as the person grows, their value system changes, what they care about the most changes. OCD grabs onto that. So if at 18, most of the time people at 18, 19 worry about what if I'm gay, or if they're gay, what if I'm straight, or what if something bad is gonna happen. These are the common things I hear all the time. Now at 20 to 30, they might start worrying about career or about family or about relationships. Those are mostly common. Around, probably around 40, 50, people start to worry more in general sense, I find, more so. They still worry about relationships a lot of the times, but they're worried on religious topics and things like that as well, and or harm OCD. Harm OCD, I would say, is the only type of OCD that I see kind of going through all age groups. So people at 18 worry about what if I killed somebody, people at 30, people at 50, because that's frightening to everybody, right? No matter what your value system is, and OCD grabs onto that. So that's kind of the general way that OCD evolves. Now, when it comes to specifics, within the same thought, you can also have an evolvement, so to speak. So when you first get a thought, for example, it's a driving OCD, you were driving and you think you hit somebody. There are a lot of details for why you think that. And when you will start going from detail to detail, if you keep getting reassurance, going back to the situation, trying to figure it out. So in this way, it's the same OCD thought, but it's evolving from one detail to another, and these details grow in the amount. And then it's the person, in order to get over it, they feel like, well, now I have to disregard all these details that I've thought of as well, and it becomes a lot more difficult. So that's why it's important not to look into these situations, because these details are all false. But at the same time, the person's going to be like, well, I do remember there was so for example, somebody walking when I was driving, and then I didn't see that person. So where did the person go? Or something like that, right? And it's hard for them to disregard that detail now. So, and then they're going to be like, well, I heard a scream and there was a person walking, so now it's for sure real, right? So it kind of starts to create almost like a snowball effect, right? And in that way, the thought evolves as well. And then what happens the next time, say, for example, in this example that I'm saying, the person got over the thought, they've moved on, but now a week later, they get a very similar thought. Now, this new thought will have or could potentially have some of the details of the old thought, because your brain is, like, the person's brain has learned that those details are important and relevant. Because the problem in all of this is that part of the brain that's sending you these thoughts, and let's not confuse anybody here. You are getting these thoughts. You are not causing these thoughts. They're coming to you. You have no control over them coming right now. But when you react with fear as the thought comes in, you're kind of promoting the brain to send you more of these thoughts in the future. So right now, your reaction is controlling what's going to happen in the future in terms of the thoughts. It's not going to control if a thought is coming in right now, it's coming in kind of on the autopilot, you know? So the thought came in, you reacted with a lot of fear. That part of the brain doesn't understand OCD. It's not programmed for any kind of a mental anomaly, so to speak. You know, not trying to offend anybody. Like for a mental um, kind of abnormal reaction, right? It's only programmed to understand that if you are scared, it needs to send you more of these types of thoughts to protect you, because if you're scared, it means that you need protection, right? And the only way your brain can protect you is to bring something to your attention with a lot of anxiety, right? Because it can up the anxiety through hormones and things like that, right? So that's all it can do. So that's all it does. It's a natural survival mechanism, which is great in terms of, you know, keeping you alive, right? But when it comes to these, like the anxiety disorders such as OCD, it's bringing these thoughts when they're not real, because it doesn't have that mechanism to tell the difference where OCD thought is and where a real thought is. So basically, you are at the driving wheel, right? Whatever you tell is to your mind is real by reacting with fear, that's what it's going to believe. So it's very important that you don't just run with every thought that you get right now, but instead really sort through them. That is this an OCD thought, you know, on a conscious level, and say to your mind, no, this is an OCD thought. I'm not reacting. I'm not going to react with fear. And if you do that, then your mind takes notice of that, and your mind says, okay, he or she's not reacting with fear. That means that this thought is not really dangerous. I'm not going to send it in the future. Now, in reality, because it's gonna kind of like try to protect itself, it's gonna maybe send it once or twice, but it's not gonna send it on repeat all the time. But if you react with fear and a lot of fear, then yeah, it's gonna just keep sending it over and over to you, you know. And that's how people get stuck in the OCD loop, right? That, you know, for example, with driving OCD. Oh, maybe I killed somebody driving down this street. No, maybe I killed somebody driving down that street, and it just goes on and on and on, right? Because the person continuously reacts with fear. So that's why it's important not to do so, and just say, even though it feels real, even though it feels scary, even though you feel guilty and all of these feelings that your brain is sending you, you're still going to disregard. Because the reason why your brain is sending you those feelings is because your brain has no way to kind of understand that the thought is false. So it's sending you the feelings as if the situation is really true. Because if it was really true, you would feel guilty, you would feel bad, you know, all of that things, right? So that's how it's sending you those thoughts. But it doesn't understand that it's not true. And the only way it can understand it is by you saying, yep, I'm getting those feelings, I'm understanding all of that, but I'm not going to react because it's an anomaly, it's an OCD thing. You know, it's not a real thing. So you have to show your mind that this thought that got stuck needs to get unstuck, that it's irrelevant, and then you can move on from it. And that's kind of what happens too in terms of going back to the thoughts evolving, right? That how does the thought switch, right? When you start letting go of the thought goes away. You can let go of the thought either by what I'm saying here, right? Forcefully saying, I'm not paying attention, I'm moving on, or by getting stuck on another thought. So either of those things will cause you to let go of the thought. Now, if you think of how many OCD thoughts you've had, you've still chosen to let go. So even though it's really scary, it feels really scary for you to let go of the thought, you're still doing it, right? Because you're moving on to new thoughts. So really, you know, by taking that leap of faith and choosing to let go of the thought now rather than say a day from now when a new thought comes in, the result is the same. You're still letting go of the thought. But by saving yourself that period of time when you were worried and getting reassurance, like self-reassurance, or, you know, trying to figure things out, you're really cutting down on how much deeper you're getting into OCD, and actually now starting the process of recovery, because you're showing your mind that no, this is wrong. It doesn't need to send you those thoughts. So it kind of, if you look at it objectively like that, you know, you're still doing the same action, you're still disregarding, but you just need to that period of time is extremely important. You need to disregard right away. So the thought comes in, you disregard. It's like, like people who don't have OCD, right? It's not it's not all roses for them either, right? They, it's not like they don't get any weird thoughts or distressing thoughts, but they just disregard them so fast within seconds that sometimes it doesn't even register in their conscious brain. You know what I mean? It's just like, no, this is not this is OCD, but say for example they're driving and they're like, what if I'm going to kill somebody in the car or whatever, right? No, this is a silly thought, I'm moving on. Like, they're not putting importance on it. They're just looking at it as a thought. Or for example, a person who is has a relationship OCD, right? What if my partner's cheating on me, or what if I cheated on my partner? Oh, that's silly, Or a person with religious OCD, right? They're praying and they think, what if I said something against God? I'm not paying attention. Right away, while the person with OCD will kind of do the same thing, but they'll take maybe a week to process it sometimes, right? In more severe cases where they're going to be worried about a situation for a long time and then, move on. Or sometimes what I see too is that the situation is the same and the person can be worried about it for a very long time, such as years, but the details about which like within that situation change. So the person will be stuck on this detail for a week and then on that detail for a week. So that's also a very kind of common thing. So that happens a lot as well. So, but that's generally how OCD goes. Of course, there's variations of it, but most of the time that's what I kind of see. And the recovery is simple in theory, but in practice there's a lot of details to it, and there's the most important thing here is repetition, because what really got you into this mess is that you kept repeating to your mind that this particular theme, would be it harm, religious, whatever, is scary. And the more you keep repeating to your mind that it's a scary thing, the more it starts bringing it up. So to get out of it, you have to repeatedly say that I'm choosing not to pay attention to it. I'm choosing not to have fear over it, because it's that message of fear, I also wanted to talk to you about the whole negative outlook on life and on the person themselves that the person gets when having OCD a lot of the time. Because again, you want to show your mind that everything is fine. But if you're beating yourself up for every thought you have, if you're saying, I'm a bad person, I'm so guilty, I can't do anything, I'm not worth anything, I can't buy anything nice for myself, like all of these negative things are feeding the mind the message that there's something wrong, there's something very wrong, there is danger here, it needs to send you more thoughts. So what you want to do is not just say this is OCD, but at the same time, you want to prove to your mind that this is OCD. And this is where refocusing comes in big time. And, refocusing meaning you're living your life as if you would live it if you didn't have OCD. So if you want to buy yourself something nice, you buy yourself something nice. If you want to go with your friends, or not if you want to, but if you would, otherwise, if you didn't have OCD, then you do so. It doesn't matter that you won't feel as good spending time with your friends or doing whatever because you are suffering, right? But you're going through those motions and you're showing your mind that no, I'm living a normal life, there's no difference between me and my friends, even though you do feel like there is a difference, you do feel guilty, you do feel not worthy, and same thing with treating yourself to nice things, because it's very important that you show your mind that these thoughts are false. And this is another way of how you can show it. And try as much as possible to forcefully shut down that negative feedback that you get about yourself in your mind, saying that, whatever, like a lot of the times, depending on the type of OCD you have, but a lot of the times you can have that where you're saying to yourself that I'm a bad person, I'm not deserving anything, all that. Try to shut that down. So when you get those thoughts, you say to yourself, no, I am a good person. I am having an OCD problem. I'm not buying into those feelings anymore. And it doesn't matter how long you were buying into those feelings. It doesn't matter if it's been for years, It stops, the train stops now, you know? So you're not going any further with that, because it's, the more you continue the loop, the deeper into it you're going to get. You can't get out of OCD by doing the same thing you've been doing, by doing reassurance, negative talk, negative thinking. Um, so it's very, very important to create that environment around you as well that is positive and uplifting rather than negative. And this goes also into things like meditation, if you are so inclined, right? But it does really help. Or relaxation practices, like things like even like going to yoga, like the stuff like that even helps, right? So or exercise of any kind, really, but things that will calm you down, things that will take you out of that zone and put you in a different frame of mind, all of that really does help. And not paying attention as much to people around you if they're being negative. Like a lot of the times, um, people will say, well, you'll never recover, all of that, because they just get frustrated dealing with OCD all the time, like dealing with you having OCD, you know? So try to block that out as much as possible, because it will have a negative impact on your recovery. And actually, it's a very, very common situation. So you can't really, just because I hear about it all the time, right? And I've had situations like that in my own life as well when I had OCD, you know? And it changes, now all those people are proud of me that I did recover, but in the process, it was discouraging, and it does kind of, if you pay attention to it enough, it does set you back. So you kind of have to make sure that you're not um, really taking it on board and paying attention to them saying that, because they're saying that without any um, knowledge of OCD, any kind of authority. They're just talking, so not paying attention to negative talk. So the next question that I have is, hi Ali, I'm a stay-at-home mom. What can I do to stay busy? Because when I'm cleaning, that's when the thoughts come around. When I sit and use my phone, the thoughts are less. Well, see, there's busy being physically busy and mentally busy. Some people, physically busy works better for them, but if the task is very repetitive, such as cleaning, then it just might not give the brain enough stimulation in order to move on from OCD. It actually kind of works almost as, you know, giving room to your mind to have an OCD thought, right? So things that are engaging to your mind, such as what you're saying about, going on using your phone, right? When you're on your phone and you're looking things up, as long as they're not OCD things, but just random things, or playing a video game or something like that, it gives your mind much more engagement. So because there's only so much room, right? It gives your mind a lot less power to devote towards OCD. So whatever works for you. If physical works for you, better do that. If you find that mental works better for you, also getting out of the house. I find getting into the sunshine, doing things that are outside of the house, because you're around people, there's a lot of mental stimulation happening, will work good as well. I don't know, depending on the situation, you might not have a lot of opportunity to do so, but as much as you can, try to vary your environment, so today you're doing this, tomorrow you're doing that, so you have things that you need to do regardless of how you are feeling, because that shows your mind that yeah, I'm getting OCD thoughts here, but this is my real life, this is my important life, so I'm gonna do this, and then when I have time, I'll do that, so it puts OCD kind of on the back burner and sends that message that you're not so scared, you're not putting your life on hold anymore, you are going on with your real life, doing the things that you would, just like I said before, right, that you would do as if you didn't have OCD, and then, you'll deal with OCD whenever you need to, but really you won't, right? So I had an interesting comment here. Somebody wrote, man downstairs causes OCD. I don't know if it's a joke or not, but either way, it's actually an important thing to discuss. So what do we do when people around us are giving us OCD, like causing OCD triggers or OCD spikes, however you want to word it? Believe it or not, this is actually a good thing. And I know it's so frustrating, firsthand. It is really frustrating when you're just trying to feel better and then a person just throws you a whole new thing to deal with, right? But those are exposures, and The trick to recovery from OCD is exposure and response prevention. So today we talked a lot about the response prevention, but in order to have it, you need to be first exposed to the situation. When you have PRO, that's a lot easier because you're exposed to OCD thoughts all the time, like pure obsessional type of OCD, right? If it's a more physical type of OCD, such as not touching a certain thing or something like that, then you can really kind of live your entire life avoiding it, you know? Or say, for example, driving OCD, right? Well, I'm just not going to drive anymore. You know, problem solved, right? But it's not really solved, because what happens is when your mind sees that you are following this and you are listening to these fears and kind of paying attention and taking action to prevent them, it's going to try to send you more fears. So your world starts to become smaller and smaller and smaller. Now you can't do this, you can't do that, and it just grows from there, right? So it's very important to not fall into that. And people around us, because they're not trying to cater to to the OCD, right? They're showing you that okay, well, this is normal behavior. Say whatever it is that he does, right? So try to look at it, even though it's annoying, and I understand that, right? But try to look at it as he is giving you exposure in order for you to do the exposure and response prevention. So he's already exposing you to the situation. Now you have to do the response prevention, you know? And this goes for a lot of the times, like within families, right? That the people around you in your family will do things that, you know, you might not want them to do, you know, in terms of OCD, where you're like, oh, just do it the other way, you know? But instead of getting mad at them, look at it as they're doing a normal thing, and OCD is what's abnormal, and they're showing you how to be normal again, you know? And nobody's really normal, but in terms of, you know, not having these OCD obsessions. So, and using it as an exposure that, okay, so he or she is doing this, I'm gonna let them do it, and then I'm not gonna react, you know? So, and going about it that way. But yeah, no, I know it's frustrating. So another question I had is a very common OCD type of thought of, what if I said something wrong, or what if I wrote something wrong? This is like work related stuff. So whenever you get these types of thoughts of what if, no matter really what the thoughts are, you know, it doesn't really necessarily always have to do with this theme, but whatever theme you have, if it's a, what if I did this, you know, say you walked by somebody, what if I touched them? You know, or what if I said something, or what if I wrote something? It's a what if thought, it's OCD, I'm distancing myself from it, I'm not paying attention, you know? So right away, you're taking a thought that's right in your face, right? In kind of metaphysical sense, right? And pushing it away with your arm, you know, arm's length, right? So you're taking something that's, you know, kind of really trying to get to you, and you're pushing it away. No, not dealing with it. This is my typical OCD thought. I'm not reacting. And if it turns out that, you know, I did say something wrong, or I did wrote something wrong, or, you know, I touched somebody while walking by them, then I will deal with it. So far, I gotta tell you guys, not one person who I've ever talked to has had anything come true, you know, in whatever types of OCD they had. So you'll be the first one. And yeah, so it's not gonna happen, you know, but it's that fear that you're getting when the thought first hits you, that you have to refuse to believe and to pay attention to, you know. And it's a conscious choice that when you refuse to pay attention to the fear, it doesn't mean that right away your fear is going to go away. It's going to linger for a little bit, and you are going to feel anxiety still. So as soon as you make the choice, the anxiety won't go away, but it will go away in a little bit of time. You just have to stay strong and continue with that choice no matter what. And again, disregarding all the feelings that are coming along with the thought. Because it's not like you're just going to get a thought. You're going to get the anxiety, the fear, the shame, the guilt, all of these things. All of these things you have to disregard as you are disregarding an OCD thought. So this is the end of the questions that I have for this show. If you would like to send me a question, you can do so either below any of the videos, because I'll see them kind of in a row anyways, doesn't matter what video you post it under, or if you email me to info@youhaveocd.com. If you email me, please let me know that you want this show to be answered or this question to be answered on the show. So I know not to say anything that's private or anything like that. Also, if you would like to start private recovery program with me, you can do so on youhaveocd.com. There's also a lot of free information. There's ebooks that are there for specific types of OCD, so please check that out. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, and I'll see you next week.